The whispering statue. What if a statue could speak, and its whispers held the key to a dark prophecy? Amelia never imagined her quiet visit to the museum would unravel a world of ancient secrets, mysterious warnings, and dangerous enemies. But when a marble statue whispers cryptic words, "Beware the rising tide," her life is thrust into a race against time. With shadows watching her every move and a prophecy threatening to unleash chaos, Amelia must uncover the truth before it's too late. But who can she trust when the world itself seems to conspire against her? Join Amelia on a gripping journey filled with suspense, danger, and the supernatural in the whispering statue. The tide is rising. Will she survive it? Chapter 1. Amelia paused in front of the ancient marble statue, tilting her head as she studied its weathered features. The placard beside it read, "Unnamed Woman, circa 2nd century CE. Origin, Greece. Discovered 1887 near Athens." There was something oddly captivating about the statue's serene expression. Despite the cracks and missing chunks of stone, the woman's face seemed to exude a quiet wisdom. Amelia found herself drawn in, leaning closer to examine the intricate folds of the figure's robes. That's when she heard it. A soft whisper, barely audible. "Beware the rising tide." Amelia's eyes widened. She glanced around the quiet museum gallery, but there was no one else nearby. Had she imagined it? She turned back to the statue, her heart racing. "Hello," she whispered hesitantly. Silence. Shaking her head, Amelia chuckled softly to herself. "Get it together, girl. Statues don't talk." She started to move on to the next exhibit, but something made her pause and look back one last time. In that moment, she could have sworn she saw the statue's lips move ever so slightly as another whisper drifted through the air. "Time is running out." Chapter 2. "I'm telling you, it spoke to me," Amelia insisted, pacing back and forth in her tiny apartment kitchen. Her roommate Zoe watched skeptically from the couch, munching on a bowl of popcorn. "Amy, you've been working way too hard on your thesis. When's the last time you got a full night's sleep?" Zoe asked. Amelia sighed in frustration. "This isn't sleep deprivation. I know what I heard." "Okay, so let's say for argument's sake that this creepy old statue really did start whispering to you," Zoe said. "What exactly did it say again?" "Beware the rising tide, and time is running out," Amelia recited. "Well, that's sufficiently ominous and vague," Zoe snorted. "Sounds like the kind of crazy dream I'd have after eating gas station sushi." Amelia flopped down on the couch next to her friend. "I know how it sounds, but I can't shake the feeling that it was real, that it was trying to warn me about something." Zoe's expression softened. She set down her popcorn and put an arm around Amelia's shoulders. "Hey, I'm sorry. I know you wouldn't make something like this up, but you have to admit it's pretty out there. Maybe you should talk to someone about it? The school counselor, maybe?" "Yeah, maybe," Amelia mumbled, though she had no intention of doing so. She knew they would just dismiss her experience as stress-induced hallucinations, but she couldn't let it go. Those whispered words echoed in her mind, filling her with a sense of urgency. Whatever was coming, she had to figure it out before it was too late. Chapter 3. The next day, Amelia found herself back at the museum, drawn inexorably to the mysterious statue. She positioned herself in front of it, trying to look casual as she pretended to study the other nearby artifacts. "Okay," she whispered under her breath. "If you can really talk, now would be a great time to do it again." "Nothing," Amelia sighed. Maybe Zoe was right. Maybe she really was losing it. Just then, an elderly man shuffled up beside her, leaning heavily on a wooden cane. He peered at the statue through thick glasses. "Fascinating piece, isn't it?" he remarked in a quavering voice. Amelia nodded politely. "Yes, it's quite beautiful." The old man chuckled softly. "Oh, it's far more than just a pretty face, my dear. This old girl has quite a few secrets. Amelia's pulse quickened. What do you mean? He tapped the side of his nose knowingly. Let's just say some statues have more to say than others, if you know how to listen. You've heard it too? Amelia blurted out, then immediately regretted it. But to her surprise, the man didn't seem shocked by her question. Ah, so you're one of the special ones, he said with a twinkle in his eye. Tell me, what did our stony friend here have to say to you? Hesitantly, Amelia recounted the whispered warnings she'd heard. The old man's expression grew grave. Just as I feared, he murmured. The prophecy is coming to pass. Prophecy? What prophecy? Amelia asked eagerly, but the man was already shuffling away. Be careful, child, he called over his shoulder. Dark forces are at work. Trust no one. And with that cryptic warning, he disappeared around a corner, leaving Amelia with far more questions than answers. Chapter 4 that night, Amelia tossed and turned in bed, unable to quiet her racing thoughts. The old man's words played on repeat in her mind. Dark forces, prophecy, trust no one. What did it all mean? And how was she mixed up in it? Finally giving up on sleep, she got up and fired up her laptop. If there was some ancient prophecy involving talking statues, surely there would be something about it online. After hours of fruitless searching through mythology forums and conspiracy theory sites, Amelia was about ready to slam her computer shut in frustration. But then a link caught her eye. The Oracle's warning. Ancient statue speaks of coming catastrophe, heart-pounding. She clicked on it. The article was from an obscure paranormal blog, but as she read, chills ran down her spine. It described a marble statue in Greece that was said to occasionally whisper prophecies to certain individuals. The messages always warned of some impending disaster. According to legend, the article read, "The statue will only speak to those with the power to prevent the coming calamity. But beware, many who have heard its words have met with mysterious accidents before they could act on the warning." Amelia sat back, her mind reeling. If this was true, it meant she might be the only one who could stop whatever was coming. But it also meant she could be in serious danger. A sudden noise from the living room made her jump, telling herself it was just the building settling. She tried to calm her frayed nerves, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Moving as quietly as possible, Amelia grabbed her phone and keys. She needed to get out of the apartment, to go somewhere public where she could think that as she reached for the doorknob, a floorboard creaked behind her. Before she could turn, something hard struck the back of her head and everything went black. Chapter 5 Amelia awoke with a groan, her head throbbing. She tried to reach up to feel the tender spot where she'd been struck, only to realize her hands were bound behind her back. Panic set in as she took in her surroundings. She was in some kind of storage room, surrounded by dusty crates and old furniture draped in sheets. The only light came from a bare bulb swinging gently overhead. "Hello?" she called out, her voice shaky. "Is anyone there?" "Ah, you're finally awake," came a familiar voice. Amelia's eyes widened as the elderly man from the museum stepped out of the shadows, no longer hunched over or leaning on a cane. "You?" Amelia gasped. "But I don't understand." The man's kindly demeanor was gone, replaced by a cold, calculating look. "I'm afraid you've stuck your nose where it doesn't belong, my dear. We can't have you interfering with our plans." "We? What plans? Who are you people?" Amelia demanded, struggling against her bonds. He chuckled darkly. "We are the keepers of the tides. For centuries, we have worked in secret to maintain the balance between order and chaos. And now the time has finally come for the great cleansing." Amelia's blood ran cold as understanding dawned. "The rising tide. You're going to flood the city." "Not just the city," the man replied. "The world. The waters will rise and wash away the corruption of humanity. Only the chosen few will survive to rebuild civilization anew." You're insane, Amelia spat. You can't just kill billions of people. The man shrugged. A regrettable but necessary sacrifice. The slate must be wiped clean. He turned to leave. I'm sorry it had to end this way for you, but we can't risk you warning anyone. Goodbye, Amelia. Wait, she cried. How do you know my name? How did you know I heard the statue? He paused at the door. We have eyes and ears everywhere. The moment you showed interest in the statue, we've been watching you. With that, he was gone. Amelia redoubled her efforts to free herself, ignoring the pain as the ropes cut into her wrists. She had to get out of here, had to warn someone. But even if she escaped, who would believe her? As despair threatened to overwhelm her, she heard a familiar whisper. Don't give up hope. Help is coming. Chapter 6. Zoe paced nervously in the police station, clutching her phone. I'm telling you, something's happened to her, she insisted to the bored-looking officer behind the desk. Amelia never just disappears like this. She always lets me know where she is. The officer sighed. Ma'am, I understand you're worried, but your friend is an adult. She's only been out of contact for 12 hours. That's not long enough to file a missing persons report. But her apartment was trashed. Zoe protested. The door was wide open when I went to check on her this morning. Something is seriously wrong. Before the officer could respond, the station door burst open and a wild-eyed man rushed in. Please, you have to help me, he cried. They took my daughter. The officer stood up. Sir, calm down. Who took your daughter? The keepers, the man exclaimed. The keepers of the tides. They're going to sacrifice her to raise the waters. Zoe's eyes widened. The rising tide. Wasn't that what Amelia had said the statue warned her about? As the officer tried to calm the distraught father, Zoe slipped out of the station. The police clearly weren't going to be any help. If she was going to find Amelia, she would have to do it herself. But where to start? Zoe racked her brain, trying to remember everything Amelia had told her. The museum. That's where this all began. Maybe there would be some clue there. As Zoe hurried down the street toward the museum, she failed to notice the figure watching her from the shadows. The observer pulled out a phone and dialed quickly. Sir, we may have a problem. The roommate is sniffing around. Yes, I'll take care of it. Chapter 7. Amelia had no idea how long she'd been working at the ropes, but finally she felt them start to give. With a final burst of effort, she managed to slip one hand free. Quickly untying herself, she stood on shaky legs and looked around the room for anything she could use as a weapon. An old curtain rod leaning against the wall would have to do. Gripping it tightly, she crept to the door and pressed her ear against it. She could hear muffled voices from somewhere nearby, but nothing right outside. Taking a deep breath, she slowly turned the handle. To her relief, it wasn't locked. She eased the door open a crack and peered out. The hallway beyond was dimly lit and empty. Amelia slipped out of the room, trying to get her bearings. The building seemed to be some kind of abandoned office complex. Dusty cubicles and broken furniture lined the halls. She made her way cautiously toward the sound of voices, pausing frequently to listen. As she got closer, she could make out what they were saying. The preparations are nearly complete. We'll be ready to begin the ritual at midnight. Excellent. And what of the girl? Still secure. Don't worry, she won't be interfering with our plans. Amelia's heart raced. She had to get out of here and warn someone. But first, she needed to find out more about what they were planning. She inched closer to the partially open door the voices were coming from. Peering inside, she saw a group of robed figures hunched over a table covered in maps and diagrams. In the center of the table was a strange device, a silver sphere covered in intricate engravings. As Amelia watched, one of the figures reached out to touch it. The sphere began to glow with an eerie blue light. The tides are aligning, the figure intoned. Soon the waters will rise and cleanse the earth of its impurities. Amelia must have made some small sound, because suddenly all the heads in the room turned toward the door. The prisoner has escaped, one of them shouted. Heart pounding, Amelia turned and ran. Chapter 8. Zoe wandered through the quiet museum galleries, trying to retrace Amelia's steps from a few days ago. She paused in front of the statue her friend had been so fixated on. "What's your deal, huh?" she muttered, studying the weathered marble face. "What did you say to freak Amy out so bad?" "I'm afraid the statue won't be speaking to you," came a voice from behind her. Zoe whirled around to find an older woman in a museum security uniform watching her with narrowed eyes. "Oh, I was just talking to myself," Zoe stammered. "Weird habit, I know." The woman's expression didn't change. "You're Amelia's friend, the one who's been asking questions." Zoe tensed, ready to bolt. "How do you know that? Who are you really?" The woman sighed. "My name is Diana. I'm part of a secret organization dedicated to protecting humanity from supernatural threats. And right now, your friend Amelia is in terrible danger." Zoe's eyes widened. "You know where she is? Please, you have to help me find her." "That's exactly what I intend to do," Diana replied. "But we don't have much time. Come with me." She led Zoe through a door marked "Employees Only" and down a narrow staircase. At the bottom was a hidden room filled with strange artifacts and old books. "Welcome to the Rail Museum," Diana said grimly. "This is where we keep the truly dangerous items." As Diana gathered supplies and weapons, she explained the situation to an increasingly stunned Zoe. An ancient cult called the Keepers of the Tides was planning to use a powerful artifact to cause catastrophic flooding across the globe. Somehow, Amelia had gotten caught in the middle of it all. But why Amelia? Zoe asked. How is she involved in all this? Diana shook her head. "We're not entirely sure, but the statue chose to speak to her for a reason. She may be the key to stopping the Keeper's plan." "Okay," Zoe said, taking a deep breath. "So how do we find her?" Diana pulled out an old pocket watch on a chain. "With this, it's attuned to the artifact the Keepers are using. It should lead us right to them." She looked at Zoe seriously. "I won't lie to you. This will be extremely dangerous. Are you sure you want to come?" Zoe nodded firmly. "Amelia's my best friend. I'm not letting her face this alone." "All right then," Diana said, handing Zoe a strange-looking gun. "Let's go save your friend and the world." Chapter 9. Amelia raced through the winding hallways of the abandoned office building, the shouts of her pursuers echoing behind her. She rounded a corner and found herself facing a dead end. Panic rising in her throat, she tried the nearest door. Locked. She moved to the next one, frantically jiggling the handle. Also locked. The footsteps were getting closer. She was trapped. Just as she was about to give up hope, Amelia heard that familiar whisper, 3 knocks to freedom. Without questioning,